die easy, and you're outranged. Sengoku, for me, they need to blast early. They need to play through really strong individual players, otherwise this draft is going to be hard to pilot.
At least if they can set up around objectives, they've got a lot of zone control tools. You throw down the cage,
with what priority shall they do that, Sam?
Yeah, well, exactly. But if you can get to an objective first, you know, Gnar plus Baby Cage has been a combo that both of these teams have used very well. That Rascal Jester have used a lot, because of course Jet hasn't played it before, but we've seen it across the LJL where you can knock people into the cage and you just blow them up from there. You throw down Sentinel turrets, Gnar and Nautilus provide CC around the areas the cage doesn't set down. You've got some tools in terms of zone control, but I completely agree with you. If it does get late and Viego doesn't get the resets he's looking for against a comp that won't provide them particularly easily, this could get a little ugly.
It could do. However, with that said, that's when we get to mid and late game. That's when people have kind of... The champions have reached their ultimatum saying, this is what I do as a champion. Now, the LJL has not been great at acting before that happens. And once again, I'm going to pose that question to Sengoku, because I'm looking at this. Viego has a chance to gank early. All of these lanes can have threats. I think we need to see that this game, more so than many other games we've seen in the LJL.
All right. On to the Rift now for the first game in this best of 5. The winner, of course, goes on to face The Rock, who is cooking up something special in Detonation Focus Me. I'm bringing it back.
Has he got anything on the menu in particular?
Probably the heads of whoever turns up out of these two teams.
Is that a local specialty?
It is, yeah. No, they have been so ruthless, so devastating in the league, and I'm sure both of these teams would like to go and look for a little revenge. Of course, Rascal Jester is the only team in the league currently to have a winning record against DFM, though the caveat definitely remains at one of those games with Udapon role swapping top and a substitute AD carrying because of unfortunate illness for Evie at the time. So, you know, caveats there, but either way, the results are still the results. Rascal Jester have a winning record against DFM, and they won't take any haters on that one.
It's just that do not pay attention to anything else happening behind that number. Just look at the winning record. Sweep it under the carpet. So,
let's crack San. 50-50 on the AI power spike there, or the ratings there. And
Until
power
you
spike
reach-
C,
yeah.
Rascal Jesters with a definite edge towards the late game. You can see that slight slope.
Like I graduated from the school of Blitzcrank. Blitzcrank Sensei taught me well. Started learning here, and I was class of 2020 spring. So as was some of the members in this game, of course, Honey was there.
Indeed.
Honey was there. He started here.
Absolutely.
He made his debut over here in the LGL, and to get a bit whimsical and a bit, I suppose,
I
thoughtful
nearly made a very specific reference to Disneyland, which you know
exactly. Oh, I know exactly what you're talking
about. But we're
going to
move on from that one. That's another time. That's a very deep cut.
Cool. Right. Back to LGL. You know, we've been sat here now for coming into our 3rd year of covering the LGL, and we've seen these teams go through some terrific highs and some horrible lows. Rascal Jester, first year that we came in, spring, they had Art, they had Vivid, they had some incredible individual names which have now left this scene, and they were contending for top spots. Then they fell into the rut. We saw them have a resurgence, and they're back. Sengoku actually had a similar path. Go back to 2020, up there in the finals, struggled to find form after that point. And now they're both here, waiting for another shot to get towards one of those finals again. 2 of the only organizations of recent years to have reached that. Them, V3, and DFM are the ones you look towards with those records. And now you're sat here thinking, okay, all right, let's see what we can see from them again. It's adding another chapter into the history that we as viewers, we as people who've covered it, have already built up with these teams. And we're starting to add more to their own illustrious stories.
Absolutely. And so a little tweet pop up there briefly from NT saying, I will do my best. I'm sure he will.
He's done so well before.
So well.
Again, talking about the history, and again, there are a lot of people, I'm sure, that will be watching back these videos or tuning in live and to you, welcome to you, who won't necessarily know the history of all these players, but the LJL is a rich tapestry of players and teams that have succeeded and failed in equal amounts, and NT is one of these players who has consistently managed to get towards the top 3 and really contend in this region for the top spots, but never quite made it over the finish line.
Yeah, for the exact stats on that, the only time this player wasn't at least 3rd was last summer, where the team just didn't work. It wasn't successful. 7th. Absolutely. Every other time this support player has consistently been up there. as one of the best in the region. Hell, I remember coming into LJL, he was playing Rumble support alongside Kiana.
Kiana Jones on the Carpets of Doom.
Absolutely. I believe it was Blank's Kiana as well at the time. It was an extraordinary looking.
Spring
Yutori Miyashi
2020.
and Enti, a legend of the bot lane. Yutori Miyashi, who sadly retired since then, but that was a very scary bot lane.
You say that. He's actually coaching on Sengoku's Academy squad.
Is he really
coaching,
now?
So he's still around beneath the curtain. Do not look any further.
I'd love him to come back onto the stage, Percy. I missed the guy.
Same. He was an incredible misfortune amongst other picks, but focusing back into this semi-final, into today, what would it mean for these teams to go forward today? Because again, we've kind of set the stakes in a bit of the history of the tapestry of these teams, but they have to face DFM again, because you always have to face DFM again in the LJL. It has been the wisdom, the way, and the truth in this league, and they're sat here looking stronger than ever, almost. I wonder if DFM are on a trajectory to go even further than they were last year. We've started to pose those questions. These teams, however, will not want that question to be answered without another question mark before, without an addendum saying, okay, yeah, but you got to get through the finals first, and we're not slouches. I mean, I think we saw RMC talking on the desk, and I think this was something which I've pretty much vibed with before. I've agreed with it, saying, look, DFM are the real threat of this region, but it's not like Rascal Jester and Sengoku are not international teams that could do well internationally themselves.
Ooh.
Secret, locally, not having a fun time though.
Can't get over the blast cone. He's going to try and flash away, head up the thick skin, going to try and get out of here. Look at Once coming down from the side as well as Hachimetra tries to body block. Honey's coming down as well. We'll have Flash. Does have Graviton for binding Eclipse. Flash, Q auto will make it happen. The healer's there, still not quite enough. And now Rascal Jester need to run for the hills. Can't quite save their bot laner. Once over the wall, another cage, and Sengoku Gaming come up 2-0 in the good.
Oh, and it's Jets Veigar debuting on the stage, which strikes first, comes out with a really important pick onto Secret Stormkench. Often it has been Secret, the one who's pulling apart the seams of enemy team comps when they're in rotation, when they're looking around the map. This time it's the Stormkench that's caught first, and it's NT and Jet that link up to do it.
Absolutely, and that was literally just after we saw the Japanese Twitter vote. 56% favourite of Rascal Jesters. Clearly, it's a bit of a not casting curse, but it will be a fan curse. A Secret walks in blind. He thinks he's safe because Recap's just there, throws down the wards. Unfortunately, Enti's come back from her own.
The unseen Nautilus is the deadliest and comes onto the radar, comes out with that big old hooking. Secret doesn't have enough disengage to seal the deal. Now, you have gotten a flash out of the Aphelios now. There is a chance you can return to that bot lane with a vengeance and make something happen, but Sengoku with the golden pocket are very, very happy. Gold onto the Veigar, gold onto the Aphelios. That certainly helps. If you are, again, remember, as we said, this comp from Rascal Jester is one that I like a lot. I like it a lot. Now, I might have my own view of the game, but I look at this and I say, okay, well, Sengoku, if you do well early, maybe those fears can start getting just tempered a little.
Absolutely. Little tweet from Honey's old lane partner, of course, from last year. Nemo was over on Axis with Honey.
Yes.
Carry mode on, question mark. Thus far, not quite. It's unfortunately, he's going to stick that mode on pretty hard right now, because 2-0 down after that little early play, and the Dragon, of course, went afterwards. It's a bit of a frustrating start for poor old... Actually, no, Honey was only picked up the kill. What am I doing? I was looking at the wrong side.
So, and again, like, to kind of bail us both out of this, this is going to happen a lot. I'm so used to seeing Veigar on the side of Rascal Jester.
I know.
I'm really weirded out by this occasion. I really am.
Yeah, no, that tweet makes a lot more sense now. In fact, the curry mode is on. Of course, he got first blood with the flash binding Eclipse. I called it out even in the replay. Or not in the replay, in the actual play. Either way, it will be still Sengoku Gaming up a fairly hefty
LJL experts, by the way.
I know. Apparently not casting experts, though, is the problem. Need to step that up as we go into this one, as Paz found a time out of those Meganar. Not too much to write home about early on up here, as Once going to turn over to this Rift Herald and I think this one up as well.
And I think that Rascal Jesters have made the correct decision here to not contest this. I think that you're looking at this map and saying, look, as long as we're not too far behind, we're okay. We can give up a Herald, but we can continue farming while that's going down. That will work out for us. Again, we just want to reach the point where we can 1-4, play the 4-man unit. Although I know is looking to potentially disrupt, just walks in and walks out.
And came to have a look and see whether there's anything he could do to stop it, but that's just an easy Herald take, and Rascal Jesters weren't interested in contesting, and they've actually just stuck around on that bot side. There is the Cullen inventory right now for Sol as well, which of course is a Jinx special. Seen that a lot, say, over in the LPL. We kind of bring that up pretty much every time we see that, because it is a really big part of the way that region's been playing the champion. they're still going to try and shove in and get something for us because there's no plate trade or anything right now. So that's just a straight advantage to Sengoku Gaming, who can now use their Herald to secure some early gold into whoever's pockets they so choose.
And Hashimesh doing the typical walks in. Oh, that was okay. So hang on, I was going to talk about that, but NT did a really cool mechanic. So if you were auto attacking with your passive, which is technically, I believe it's an uncancelable auto attack in some ways. It's very hard to cancel. If you do that and then Q midway through the animation, you can kind of jank out the animation as you Q backwards through your model. It's really awkward to react to. There was a whole video on Nautilus mechanics like this. So there's one thing where you can do where you can ult one target, flash to the side. It will change the direction your ult comes out. You can instantly knock out the person that you flash onto, then carry on through them to flash to ult to the target after that point. There are some really cool Nautilus mechanics which you can pull off in niche scenarios. And NT, of course, has been a big Nautilus player for a very long time. So
absolutely.
And after being involved with those first 2 kills, he's shown off some flashy moves already.
Absolutely, making things very tricky right now. Or rather, like, he can do some tricky things, rather, is what I was saying. And rather than him making his own life tricky, that's not quite the point. More tricky in terms of, like, skateboarding moves. That's good tricking, right? The point stands, even if it was a little awkwardly phrased. Either way, Sengoku Gaming waiting on this blast cone coming over as Secret about to walk up and probably walk into a lot of pain.
There's a Hachimetra in the wings, so this is the thing, right? I mean, you look at Sengoku, they're looking to make this power play towards Bob, but...
Oh, he gets knocked up, and now he's going to have to flash away. The event horizon comes down. Flash over it, though. Going to try and get it in onto the Nautilus. Rocket comes through, turns it down. That's a charm onto Honey as well. Remember, there's no cleanse. That's an abyssal dive, knocks him up as well. Trying to knock him down. Double kill to Sol's Jinx. Now going to continue trying to run through. Once has stolen away the Tomcat, trying to abyssal dive out. There is the K to try and get her. Not quite in range with the charm. And it'll turn into a 2-for-1 in favor of Rascal Jester.
But what this all starts with is Rascal Jester just reading the play better. They know that Sengoku's coming down there. They call a reset. They come in with full HP, come in with full summoners, and they come in with a Hachimetra. And as Sejuani is a champion which doesn't get involved in the game early, surviving through to this level 6 mark when they can actually start impacting the game and pulling off this kind of fight is very large. Of course, Sengoku was seen on vision. They get seen on that ward, so they know they're around there. It's not necessarily the big brain seeing into the future moves, but it's still the correct decision from them. Secret goes first. That's absolutely fine. Of course, they got picked off in that first play for the first blood, but you've got a couple of levels on you now. You don't, and isn't shut down in the first parts of this fight. I guess they used the thick skin, and I love aggressive Tom Kench plays like this. It is so satisfying to see.
Oh yes, Abyssal Dive, remember, if you don't see him, you can't see where the Abyssal Dive is coming from. They keep diving in. Unfortunately, just about falls to once, which allows him to try and escape with his own Abyssal Dive into a Heartbreaker reset, and just out of range of that charm. That is pixels away.
Actually, I think Jet actually had a cleanse on Summon a Spell, but in that replay, if you look down at that client, so I'm not sure it would have led to too much after that point, but I appreciate the attempt. Again, snowballing through this early game, kind of counter-snowballing, right? Because, again, putting down what we expect to happen and what we want from these teams, Rascal Jester, if they are within fighting distance in the mid game, are very, very happy. So,
oh no, he stole it. Sol,
no! But stuff like this makes Sengoku really unhappy. Just anything to break the momentum early on, stop Rascal Jester reaching their power spikes, and stop Sengoku getting ahead of the curve of the game, being able to skirmish effectively, is going to work very much in the favor of Rascal Jester.
Sol versus Honey has been Honey favored in some ways over the last bit in the regular season, but I am so happy to see this guy turn up and turn around a bit of an early deficit in the way that we've just seen. That's a couple really good kills onto the Jinx, into a really cheeky little steal on that blue buff, feeling very, very happy. And both of these bot laners have been so extraordinary for their teams. Sol up at like 663 DPM, the #1 in the league. Honey just behind him at third at 607.
How much GPM do they have against blue buffs?
Well, exactly. And then you look at things like the kill participation. Sol 80% kill participation, way above any other AD carry in the league. Honey just behind him at like 74.7%. That kind of deal where you're seeing a lot of these numbers neck and neck, anywhere between 1 and 3 in pretty much all the stats you care to mention. Honey's slightly better in terms of just raw laning, but the damage and kill participation for Sol, they are so critical to how their teams want to look towards their success. And if these players are online, you know their teams are going to feel very happy, very comfortable playing through them. And both of these players in a great position to make things happen as we're about to have a fight. All right, once about to get himself in a bit of a dangerous position, knocked up
Oh,
his
the rocket.
NT rocket does go wide, but Jet's gone gold in a bit of an awkward position. In goes Recap with the Spirit Rush, can't quite make it happen, as once goes over the wall trying to get a kill, but a Devour keeps him alive, and Soul now excited trying to turn around, but Honey with a massive Inferno, but can't quite secure the kills, has now got Red White out of nowhere, trying to get in for another kill, Flash Primordial Burst, trying to get more, Honey trying to heal up, getting another, can't quite secure more, now Recap and Hatcher Metcha will wipe it out. It is 4 for 2, and it is Rascal Jesters that come out on top.
See, this is what happens when you mention too many numbers in one space of time. It's like looking into the mirror and saying something backwards. This is what happens. You get some action finally into the mid game. LJL does like to play it slow, but when you have the power spikes, they know how to use them. It's Sengoku going for an aggressive invade. They're playing around the Nautilus, they're playing around the Viego, but they don't have the ability to peel back, and they don't actually have all of their pieces set up for this fight. Yes, the charm lands, but when you have the Sejuani, you have so many ways to aggress very, very quickly. And when you don't have the Veigar hit immediately to put down cages, things get a little difficult. Now, of course, things also happen to be working out in Sengoku's favor in some regards. When you have Gale Force on Aphelis, you have basically an extra ability put onto your kit. 4-man Inferno ult, or at least the splash damage goes across them at that juncture. And Honey does enough damage to make this an interesting fight. It makes it... It puts an extra question mark onto it, but still, Rascal Jester, they win that 4v4, and in a composition where they want to be 1-4ing, if their 4-man unit is working out already, that's scary for Sengoku.
Gold is neck and neck. It's 200 gold apart at this point. We've got 2 dragons in the favor of Sengoku Gaming. That's about it as far as differences there. They also got the Herald, of course, but gold-wise, it's pretty damn close. And you saw what a beautiful 3-weapon switch that was. Infernal into Crescendum Severum to try and turn that one around for Honey. Couldn't quite make it happen. You could see the gold right now down there. So damn close. This game coming into the mid-game, so even.
Yeah, and again, like, Sam went on an extended point about some of the numbers behind why these players are so good, but to kind of boil it down away from that, just going towards the eye check, these players get resources, and they use those resources well. That's what it really boils down to, if you don't really want to care about the nitty-gritty of anything else. But you can see in those kind of fights, they're not... So much of this split, we've seen the AD carries kind of be clean up, sometimes have the big moments when they get to 2-3 items. Both of these players are playmakers. We've seen Soul's Rockets already. We've seen him impact that game. We've seen Honey flash forward for first blood, go into that fight, turn around for another 2 in what seemed like a dire situation to bail out something for the team. Watch these players again. They are such beautiful players to watch in the LJL.
Mid lane turret now under siege, and eyes on one more time. Charm just about wide of Jet. That man has been pixels away from getting caught a number of times right now. And that makes his life very, very difficult, of course, but does manage to get out. Mid lane turret still falls. We've got about a minute until the dragon, which would come up and, of course, be soul point for Sengoku. Need to make it happen.
So, when we have the soul point kind of being held kind of in the wings by Sengoku, they're looking to kind of build up towards that. You start asking, okay, well, again, we haven't really seen the Tryndamere pop off too much early. And, of course, that tweet obviously goes towards that. Ebby, a huge player of the Tryndamere, and... after Paz kind of got dealt a pretty hefty defeat by Ebby on a lot of his lane-dominant champions, he's the praise versus the Tryndamere actually means quite a lot coming from him, but either way, Ino needs to start really opening up some advantages of his own to kind of, again, make Sengoku think about what they're doing around these objectives. You mentioned it in draft, if Sengoku get towards the objective first, things actually can get a little bit difficult for Rascal Jesters when you have this much zone control, when you have the ability to get single target picks and then fuel your Viego's resets through that fight. However, as we were saying before, the 4-man unit, regards that 1-man, is going the fighting way of Rascal Jester.
All right, well, we've got ourselves a dragon to work with. Not quite got the ultimate available, does Sejuani. Still about 20 seconds, if I read the UI correctly. That could be problematic as Paz gets a hold of that turret topside against the Tryndamere even, which is great news for Sengoku. Managed to trade back in terms of that turret. They will seed over this dragon, though. Don't feel like they can do it until the teleport's coming through. It's down to 2,000 HP. I don't know whether they can even get in here. The dragon's just going to go. Going to try and catch Recap and just spirit rushes away. A little over-eager, I think, there from Sengoku.
Well, I think they have to play a little bit defensively again, remember, because you have the Spirit Rush up. You have flashes up on everyone but Sol. There are so many angles which are going to get you punished for entering that pit. As you know, we were talking about some unique mechanics earlier in terms of the Nautilus ones. Now, I know a lot about Ari ones, and Recap has shown this a couple of times now. We saw this in their game the other day. When you have those thick walls, by the way, around mid, and this will apply to any kind of larger wall. if you click just over the halfway point in the wall and you press the Spirit Rush, you actually get a super speedy dash, because the way that the speed calculation works is that it will take the same amount of time for Ari's dash to go to your cursor, not to the other side of the wall. So technically, you speed up your dash by clicking just over the halfway point in the wall. Check it out in practice tool. You're gonna face slam that wall a lot, but it's still really fun to see. Recap's been pulling out pretty consistently, which is something which I respect because I fail out all the time.
Maybe it's the consistency of the wall he just knows, right? It's a bit less, like dense for him. That's why he can go through it faster.
I actually didn't understand half of that.
Well, you said consistency, so it's like the consistency of the wall is lower, so we can get through it easier. That's
viscosity. Wow, we need to talk about wall viscosity here on the LJL. We have everything here.
You looked really perplexed, but I was like, look, I'm making a word pun. You should be able to follow me on this. Come on, man, join me.
The play-by-play has made a pun. How do you react?
It feels like those really bad Facebook adverts for some weird decision-making, choose-your-own-adventure game.
Well, Sengoku have chosen to go into the mid lane. Attack or defend, I suppose. Let's make ourselves some tower defense for Rascal Jester on the other side. Hachimecha coming on the flank has the ults.
There's no vision either. That will be Recap and Hachimecha looking to dive forward to make something happen as Paz. Not at Mega could be problematic. Big chunks out onto both sides here as NT goes gone, but Recap's just waiting to try and get in.
Recap!
Looks to get the orb deception, can't quite get the hill. Honey just about alive, trying to turn it around. Jet blows up Sol. Secret's gone as well, and somehow, some way, they are turning this one around. The reset's starting to come through as Paz gets the Mega Gnar back. I know, is undying with his rage and will just about survive. I need a second to breathe as they're going to continue sieging onto this mid lane turret, and they'll get out in a 2-for-1 in favor of Sengoku Gaming. They can't quite pick up the Tryndamere because of the ultimate, but that was such a great turnaround.
And can we sit and appreciate the noble sacrifice of Jess of the mid lane, Sengoku's mid laner, pulling out heroic intervention in that fight. You look at this and you see the Sejuani on the flank and you go, no. This could get a little bit difficult. Sol has the potential to pop off. Jet sees the danger, cuts it off at the pass, chunks out half the HP of Sol, dodges out on the rocket, and stops the Jinx turning this fight. Because you look at this fight and immediately you start thinking, how the heck is this not going to be a one fight for Sengoku? Well, for Rascal Jester, rather. And that's the only way that's turned around, is Sengoku's mid laner Jet pulling off some hero moves.
Reminder, he's first team All-Pro for a goddamn reason. Extraordinary stuff to shut down the Jinx that's been so deadly in this game so far. And we're left with a game that's actually turned back to Sengoku's favor just slightly as a result of that play.
And again, we talked a lot about how Rascal Jesters probably win out in a draft sense when you get to certain item spikes, you get to play around your range, blah, blah, blah. But this is something of a recurring trend for Sengoku, where we said on the desk, we've said it beforehand, I'm pretty sure that Rascal Jester are the better team. They play better in their fundamentals. They play better in being able to ward out the map, being able to do a lot of the small basic things. But it does seem like Sengoku have themselves the hero plays. They have the people that stand up in the clutch moments. Now, not that Rascal Jesters don't have members themselves, but you look at Jet in that fight. You look at Honey throughout this game, and it is so hard to bet against these players, against so many teams in the LJL.
And you can sort of see potential win conditions there a little bit for the side of Sengoku Gaming. They're not necessarily the easiest to pull off. We kind of called it out. Nightmare has been pretty eloquent about it, really, about how difficult this is. In a rare turn
of events.
Absolutely. Every now and then, he can put the words together in good orders.
The word good.
I was going to make a serious point. Here we are. But obviously, one thing we have yelled out, either way, the point stands, that there is some good zone control tools from Sengoku Gaming, and if you can keep this cleanseless, lanternless, whatever-less Jinx away from the fight by splitting her apart from the team so she can't throw out the rocket, throw out the zaps, then you've got a chance to break down the front line before the Jinx can get involved. If Jet can continue to do what he was doing in that last fight, you've got the win conditions. It's just not that easy. It requires some damn good hands.
Well, and I feel like that was a bit of an anomaly of a fight because you managed to get to the back line without really dealing with the front line. Now, Rascal Jester, speaking of that front line, have abilities to tank that Baron. You get to tank this up for forever. Jet, and once it's getting in range, he is going to be in range for a steal.
Gonna flash, can't quite get it. Heartbreaker straight back out. Now the fight commences. Once he's kind of out of this, Zenti goes down. Paz on the other side trying to do his absolute best to get a Mega Gnar out of the wall. Flash forward from Honey with the Gale for course, I apologize. Flashes away from the Glacial Prison, trying to get out as much as they can. It's a good cage, trying to take him down. That's the AD carry. Jet does it again. Now, Aina trying to escape as best he can as well. Has got the Undying Rage, has yet to need to use it. Hachimetra and Secret now need to escape. Over the wall they go, trying to get as much as they can, and they can't secure any more kills. Sengoku Gaming lose the Baron and only get one in trade, though it is the AD carry.
And it is a hero play again to try and find that Jinx, because that fight honestly looked pretty terrifying after a certain point as well. Sol gets away from the Mega Gnar into the wall, flashes out from it, gets that predict onto it, and then you think, oh heck, that's an excited Jinx. What can happen in this fight? Well, it turns out what can happen is Jet once again finds his mark. Sengoku are going to punish the resets of Rascal Jester by taking a dragon, get themselves up to Soul Point. However, they've given up that.
Here we go again. He's done it before. He'll try it again.
My God.
Just about avoids hitting Viego. That was very close. We'll get the replay here, because I saw Mega Gnar on Paz, and I was very worried.
But the thing is, the Rascal Jesters, I think they're playing around the fact that they have such a strong front line at this point in the game. Recap uses that Zhonya's and dodges out an awful lot. Does get stunned back to back, but the real important thing about that whole play is not the fact that Ari lives or dies, it's the fact that the time control is now down. You don't have that Devour, and Sol gets absolutely mullered by Jet again. Just walks up too far, tries to look for a turnaround play, get a Kraken Slayer proc down onto the Veigar, turn around that fight yet again, but Jet once again kind of winning out in the micro of these big fights.
Doing exceptionally well, and 3 items are in on Sol. He's going to continue to be very dangerous if he can free fire, but that's now 2 team fights in a row where he's been caught a little bit. As hard as it might be to get to him, you've got to, if you can keep making it happen, there is still that slight win condition.
And the fact that he has done it in this game, in these comps, against this player of Sol, who is one of the real star AD carries of this region, it speaks to what this player, Jet, alongside Yaharong on DFM, has done for mid lane in this region, has done for what it means to be an LJL mid, in kind of the wake of what Arya did for our region. These 2 players, and of course one of them is waiting in the finals, see if Jet can match up some of that. These 2 players have done a lot for the optics, for the flair, for the perceived level of the mechanics you can have in the LJL as a region.
Oh yes, that is going to be a Moonlight Vigil missing, as I was going to say something completely different. So we're going to see a fight as Enti just about survives the Super Mega Death Rocket, but it means he's going to have to retreat now. And against the weight of the Baron minions, it's getting increasingly hard for Sengoku to clear waves, especially because Honey doesn't have a Calibrum, doesn't have an Infernum for easy wave clear. Those are great if people are diving into U7 Crescendo, not so great for walking up to wave and surviving.
Exactly, which is why, I look at a fellow and think the one weapon combo, which is good in all situations you can never fight against, is actually the rifle turrets. When you have Calibrum Crescendum, this is great. Someone does move forward, as you were saying, but they're not being given that angle. They're playing at range. Rascal Jester, again, their 4-man unit has the range advantage, and with the Baron, that top lane matchup, which has been kind of a non-factor for a lot of this game, due to the good play of Paz, is starting to again tip over the edge. And Rascal Jester, that comp which we were talking about, saying, okay, Sengoku, you're going to struggle against this at some point, has finally come into vision.
I also really like Paz's item choices here. Randuin's Omen second into the Tryndamere, who's not managed to get snowballed ahead, means he's actually struggling to do lethal damage, and as long as you can keep yourself at range and chunk him out before he can look for an all-in, as we saw in that top lane a few times, Paz actually doing really well into this matchup, much better than I was expecting, at least on paper.
I do think part of that is because you did draft into Sejuani. You know that you're not really going to get huge amounts of ganks down early. You want to scale up into relevance. But Rascal Jester have now done that. And in the region of the LJL, we said this a lot in the early game. And guess what? We're going to say it in pretty much every early game, because it's what happens every game in the LJL. Unless your name is DFM and you play through lanes very heavily, you're not really going to get that much done early. In fact, actually, the one other example of the strong early games outside of that is Hachimetra on Volibear. You can understand why Sengoku banned away that pick, but Rascal Jester very happily defaulted into a style which works very well in this region, playing around strong carries, and it is carrying them over to strong game 1 performance so far. Of course, it's not done just yet. There may be another 2 sentences, paragraphs, maybe even a chapter or 2, depending on how Sengoku can stall out in this game. But the onus is on Sengoku to outplay at this point.
Has potentially in a spot of bother here, about to get dived onto a bit dive just shy, does get the crunch into the Mega Gnar, into the tower, but won't find too much more, and Rascal Jesters take this opportunity to secure another tower for themselves. Now up about 3,000 gold, now more like 4,000 gold. All honesty, now the gold just updates, and They are actually in a pretty strong position. About a minute until what would be Cloud Soul for Sengoku
New patch notes for Game 1 of Rascal Jester versus Sengoku. Gold lead increased to 4,000.
Exactly that.
In the newest update in this game, we will discuss. Well, one thing we should discuss as well, because there are item breakpoints which have now been reached. For a little while, Rascal Jester was starting on 3 items in the ready carry, while Honey was kind of sat there on 2.5. 3 items now hit for your fellows. There is a Last Whisper on Sol. That's going to be a scary point of order for the boys in red to deal with, but again, huge item J points of the elsewhere across the board. While there may be a 304 Ari who's building up decent damage of their own with that Void Staff Zhonya's combo, that's a death cap on
Just picked
Vega.
up. Yeah.
That's going to be one-shot territory if you put a foot wrong.
Because for the longest time there, Sengoku Gaming were down the items. Suddenly, they've got those third items on those key carries. That is in time for the Baron spawning, in time for the Cloud Dragon spawning, and yes, they're behind, but Sengoku Gaming have at least now got the items to make a real go of it around a Baron like this, and if they are the ones in position in the river, kind of called it out in draft, they do have the tools to make it a little bit tricky to dive in.
You don't have great weapons to fight from Honey. Watch out for this. He hasn't grabbed him and Infernum. They're going in for the Baron. Oh my god!
No! That's a Tom Catch Tuglat! I do not believe it! Honey gets a kill onto Hachimecha, but that is poor consolation. That is the Q of the century.
Oh, it is the Q which breaks Sengoku onto the rocks. They're not even going to get themselves in a position for a Soul recap on the flank. Sengoku, what are you going to do at this point?
That's the Dragon Sword, and now they're going to get out of here. Secret's in a difficult position, potentially, but with the Baron recall, I think he can just get out. He's going to go, sure, he's gone! Rascal Jesters, there is getting away with murder, and there's one Earth I just witnessed. It's blind!
This is not a spell book. This is not a spell book. He just gets it with the And I'm sorry. Secret, what the was that? Well, there you go. We have some sleeper early games. We have some ways to really. We have to save all of our excitement for later in the game.
I'm back. Okay. So 3 items are in for Trinity of the likes, but that is the most ridiculous Baron secure into Dragon Secure I have seen in a very, very long time. How extraordinary was that? And now Rascal Jesters with another Baron to their name, with the soul prevented, with 4 items on your Jinx. Very much in control of this game. Yes, you've got some of the infinite scaling on Vega. Yes, you've got this Aphelios now getting towards his own terrifying points as well, but it's just not what you want. That's quite a lot of damage onto Sol.
Again, just a reminder, Gale Force above so many other AD carries. It's actually something which I borrowed from Temporal, so all credit to him. Effectively, Gale Force becomes another basic ability for this champion. It allows him to, it just slots so seamlessly into his kit. Yes, someone like Jinx has a bit more item diversity and going towards the Kraken Slayer stuff, but having that utility to close that range against the traditionally higher range AD carry gives you a lot of ability to look for those shutdown kills, but there's life still in that AD carry between that Legends Bloodline, and Sol now gets to return to the fray full HP.
The cage is put down, trying to zone out these minions best they can, but Inhibitor exposed in mid lane, Tryndamere shoving in the top side, and I wonder whether Paz unable to really be able to control the wave as he once did in that previous Baron particularly. Now going to make this pretty tricky. There are teleport walls behind by Hachimecha on a sweeping mission, looking to make sure there's no easy ways for Paz in particular to make a Mega Gnar flank destroy that attempted shoving bot side.
Well, if he's going to flank, he needs to be able to find a bit of a reprieve from Ino's Tryndamere. Ino, again, not been the main character as Honey. Just misses out on the Ace and the Calibrum version of the Moonlight Vigil. But you see, again, Rascal Jester playing disciplined, playing back, being able to play around their 4-1 style just like we thought they would. And Sengoku, they had a moment of real brightness in this game, and it is snuffed out so viciously by Rascal Jester.
Still unable to get onto this tower and bot side, though. They've got enough zone control with the cages on a low enough cooldown at this point that they're actually struggling to do damage to the turrets, at least. They've got that mid lane inhibitor, but actually, with that Baron now worn off, they don't actually break the base, and that means that Sengoku, yes, they're down a bit more gold, but they were already down a bit more gold, right?
It's a bit more on top of the bit more, and then the bit more becomes quite a bit.
Yeah, but at this point in the game, it becomes less relevant in a lot of ways, and you begin to sort of suggest that, like, unless you start breaking the space, you start to get down to those very flippy team fights where suddenly a few kills go over and you've just got, like, minute-long death timers.
And to quote a Guns N' Roses song, a little becomes more and more. It just keeps going, and it keeps adding up. You think it's okay, you got it under control, and then suddenly, oh gosh, we can't fight against this anymore. Now, however, when you get to these levels of gold, when you get to these item breakpoints, it gets okay, actually, because you still have the Void Staff, you still have your pen items, you still have your damage items and your carries. The question is, can your front line survive long enough for the carries to actually get a meaningful kill, and can you get a clean victory? At this point, looking quite difficult.
Absolutely, completely agree. The Guns N' Roses reference was not one I was expecting, but there you go. Well, I should have known really with who I'm casting with here, but there you have it. Another minute until this dragon, and as we said, later this game goes, the less the gold becomes relevant. The fact the brace is not really broken, inhibitors all up. Yes, there's one exposed in the mid lane. Means Sengoku can potentially come over and try and contest this.
And another important thing is actually Paz, when he has Mini-Gnar, is actually able to start threatening the Tryndamere. We've seen a couple of times that's been pushed back. Saul's starting to use the rockets as pokes, starting to use them with high amounts of AD, level 16 for low cooldown, high damage to try and poke out non-sustained members of Sengoku. They're going for the engage, they find him!
That's a massive order to Honey. Flash, heal, away. They're going to get a Graviton route onto Aino to try and keep his own out empty. Goes down. Look at recap on the back end of this as well as once goes down as well. It's 2 for none. Right now, Honey trying to turn this one around. Bestie coming to Flash. Out of secret. Move everybody. Can't quite kill those they wanting to. It's a big Mega Gnar miss from Paz. Gale Force away from Honey who can't secure what he needs to. Aino now onto the Mega Gnar Flash over the wall. And with everybody alive from Rascal Jesters, they could look to end it off. What would have been a fantastic option, but even with the man advantage, they don't have the wave, so they're gonna have to back over to the dragon. I thought with the members dead and this late in the game it would be doable. It's just not quite.
But look at the members who are dead. It's the Viego, it's the Nautilus, it's not the Veigar with this many items, and it's not the Aphelios. Things go down to the wire again, and Sengoku don't have anything to show for it, but they do keep themselves alive. I'm very impressed at how well Sengoku lock Aino out of this fight. The Tryndamere doesn't get onto the backline, and that's a real important point. As much as Jet and Honey have zoned off for the fight, they're not taken down, and you can see the amount of clever tactical peel which is put out for these carries.
Absolutely true. Now, 5 items on Sol. That's a Guardian Angel in. Attachment goes over the wall. That's going to be a lockup on NT on the side, who's chunked out, trying to survive best he can. Recap hopping forwards, does get the kill. Now needs to try and find his way out again, potentially with the Banshee fail. Still not disactivated. The charm just about goes wide. Aino gets chunked out by Honey, but once again, Rascal Jester is just able to hop forward and look for these picks with impunity. They're so tanky. Banshees plus Zonya's on Ari, plus the front line, so difficult to deal with, and once a half HP being zoned away, it'll have to be a steal again.
Okay, while they're waiting for another miracle, waiting to see what they're gonna do. Oh,
late game Infernum ultimate secures the Tryndamere. Pop goes the Barbarian. The Rocket tries to return the favor, but Jet survives. He's got a teleport, so could reset. We'll need to here.
Oh, and we have reached the true late game. We've reached the moments where, again, it is about these hero moments. There's rockets flying out so quick and often. One kill, though, could unlock once.
Charm goes wide, recap pops the ultimate. So much damage back, though. Gonna be down to 1,000 HP. Once doesn't get in range to try and steal Hachimecha. Arctic Assault over the wall. Recap Spirit rushing away. Hachimecha might be the sacrifice here. He indeed will be. Everyone else will likely get to reset. There's no way to prevent that. So Hachimecha will just come and clear up the waves best he can.
He's trying to. Well, it's still going to be the Baron to the name of Rascal Jester. Going to be able to play around the map once more. But last time that Baron was on Rascal Jester, they couldn't break the base. They couldn't deal with the Veigar, who's stalled out for forever. Early game, you don't clear waves. Late game, you kill him like no one else. I actually don't know what the W cooldown is going to be on Veigar at this point, but the amount of stacks he has is going to be popping out every second or two, and that's so much ability to clear out waves and continue to stall from infinite range.
This game, despite comp discrepancies, despite expected results, has gotten incredibly close. Paz, though, might now be in a dangerous position. Recap has popped the Spirit Rush, avoids the Everfrost. The charm goes wide as well, and he gets out alive.
And he is the only unkilled member on Sengoku, mirrored by Recap, who tried to take him down, but both the Deathless members remain. So in this late game. And Rascal Jester, as much as they have this comp, again, the 1-4 that has worked out so well for them in large portions of this game, they haven't found the killing blow just yet. And it's not for lack of trying.
I know, though, has decided against split pushing topside. He's going to try and escort in this wave in the mid. Remember, he doesn't have the Baron buff because he got detonated by an Infernum ultimate from Honey to open up that Baron sequence of plays just before this. And it's going to be another one of these attempted holds. Turrets go down, cages go down, and finally Rascal Jester can actually get onto the turret. It goes down on the 3rd Baron, on the 3rd time of asking.
And you can see that they've run through the Caliber Crescendum turrets now. Honey has the Gravity, maybe that'll help set up for potential cage, anything really. At this point, doesn't actually matter what weapons the Aphelios has if he actually gets to hit you. And look at that.
Goes wide because of Devour.
And again, the threat of those plays, sometimes you just have to hands check. You have to say, look, your hands on your keyboards, let's just chat, let's have a quick check. And Secret blows the ultimate, does end up saving Recap a large amount of HP. And you know what? I'm very happy with Recap because he's just bought himself a Magi.
Very good. That Dark Seal's been at 10 stacks for a long time.
Okay, I would be happy with him. But is it 40 minutes in? You get significantly less value out of that item. You want to start building that early, start snowballing through it. But either way, it's damage in pocket. It's the ability for Recap to, when he does dive forward, even with this double bruiser item, the AP bruiser, the Zonyas, the Banshees, he'll have a little bit more sting in those charms and those orbs of deception and all of that damage. And maybe he'll be able to take off enough HP for Rascal just to finally find that winning fight which they're looking for.
He's used those defensive tools to breach through the zone control that they have on Sengoku Gaming. Able to get through the cage, try and get onto the priority targets, be very proactive when he's looking for those charms. And honestly, it's a pretty good effect outside of Paz's incredible escape in that bot side, say 30 seconds ago. But Inhibitor in mid respawns. Bot inhibitor is down, and now it's Rascal Jesters onto the top side to try and break open that last remaining inhibitor turret.
See what happens. I mean, you can see the wave clear, and you don't have the Baron buff this time. Minions just disappear. However, it's still a chunk that's not going to regen all too quickly. And Rascal Jesters, again, playing patient, playing calm, and they're playing towards what their comp wants. They don't need to overforce. See what happens again if they do slip up. Someone like Honey has been waiting to try and pull them apart, and Jet did that so well in the mid game as well. It has been those two players above all others for Sengoku to really hold Rascal Jesters to account. And Paz, however, being left on side lane duty, this is where Sengoku are going to start having issues. Can they hold multiple lanes?
It's getting increasingly difficult without the turrets there to hold people accountable, to keep them away from those critical inhibitors. I know, yes, it hasn't been the most explosive Tryndamere game we've seen all season, but it's hit that point now. He's quite difficult to deal with, whatever your itemization, whatever your champion is. Soul will disappear into the hands of Rascal Jester, who picked up 4 Cloud Drakes on the trot. They now have that to their name, and that's obviously even more scary on the likes of an Ari, on the likes of a Tryndamere. And you can just see it across the board right now, those itemizations. The map is dark for Sengoku Gaming. Yes, they can hold on, but they're holding on for a critical teamfight wipe, and then just shoving away from their own base.
Again, it's discipline, right? It's the ability to say, sit there and say, look, I'm waiting for this one moment. If that does not show itself, I'm playing back. I'm not going for the half-hearted chances. It has to be the perfect one. And now we have full items on Honey. You look at that gold, you see there's an advantage for Rascal Jester. Does that matter if the damage is there? Honey is caught!
He gets caught, but he's got himself a GA. It's not quite popped. Healing up with the Severum. Does not quite hit the Moonlight Vigil. I know into the backside, trying to hop forward. Will get the Guardian Angel, but the Undying Rage has been popped. He needs to escape. He gets devoured out. Once trying to escape on the other side, goes invisible with the Harrow Path, and somehow only Enti falls.
And again, it's just so hard for Rascal Jester to pick off the real carries of this comp. Enti and Wands have bitten the bullet so many times in this game. A 6th death for the Nautilus, and honestly, it could have been a great many more with the amount of low HP escapes he's had himself. 20 seconds left on the support. Honestly, being a low level at this point of the game is kind of working out for Sengoku because those death timers aren't high enough to cause any real issues. The carries are still alive. The base still stands. Rascal Jester still waiting for their real killer blow.
Honey sold the Guardian Angel because it was popped. He's got a QSS now to try and survive the dive that will come through next.
That's the charm!
But it's on to Meganart coming through. Paz gets it. Gonna try to hop for a wall slam. Doesn't quite happen. His flashes out in trade. Now he needs to get out in danger. Paz so damn low. I know. In trouble on the other side. Does take some Severum onslaught autos. But that final inhibitor turret down, trying to go in to try to secure that inhibitor. They won't quite manage it, and they're back to the Baron. Our Rascal Jester.
Let's just say that one phrase we've used a little bit throughout this game. Not for lack of trying. Rascal Jesters, again, go on the aggressive front foot. They look for that first pick, and it just doesn't quite cleanly work out. This is their third Baron. There's been a stall. Is this the fourth Baron?
It's fourth Baron.
They're going to steal. No. So this is the fourth Baron in the entire game. One of them went over to Sengoku. It's not even been a clean sweep for... Wait, no. That's not true.
It was just stolen away by Zeke.
Right, okay. Look, the game's been long enough that, again, we're going to have to start telling this as the old bards would do around the camp... around the old campfire, saying it like, remember in the first game of the semifinals, the game went on for eons. We were playing until we needed to, like, start getting empty water bottles to start using mid-game.
We are 44 minutes into this game. We've got Baron number 4. We've got 2 inhibitors down and 1 inhibitor exposed.
Just think, last split, Sengoku were in one of these mammoth games, which was awful. It was one of the very worst games this league has ever seen. It was versus Burning Core, and it was not one which we would have liked to relive. Next split, this one, they come out with a longer game again, but this one has been tense. It has been of high quality. It has been of real stuff that you start telling stories about, and one of these teams, again, has to go on to face DFM. They're watching this around their own campfire. Waiting to see who's going to meet them in the finals.
Inhibitor in top lane, forced to Ino. 1 in bot side is the single remaining structure outside of the Nexus towers and the Nexus itself for Sengoku Gaming, and they are retreating from it. It will be triple inhibitors down, and a final remaining base defense is all they've got to work with. They've got every member alive, and that's about it. Paz tries to hold Ino to account on the top side. He's having to crunch away from the Barbarian King. And this is going to be it. A last stand in Alamo. An attempt to hold at Helm's Deep, but I don't know whether there's dawn of the 5th day.
Okay, and now we're looking at the weapons, looking at Honey. That's a pick. What can they get with it?
The turnaround is so much damage. He's gone. The pop is there with the Primordial Burst. One steals away the support, and that will prevent an easy turnaround. The shield comes through. He just about gets out alive.
There are never victories without absolute scares. Jet is sat there with the Zhonyas!
Good Zhonyas to prevent the Glacial Prison, but it's a Nexus tower that falls. 1 tower remains in the game for Sengoku Gaming. 1 between that and the Nexus, and Rascal Jester continue to siege even in the 4-man.
Graviton.
Sol does get with the Graviton. Binding Eclipse comes through. Recap. Still got the Banshee's Veil. That's not been popped. He gets to hop forwards. Sol just about alive as well, and Sengoku Gaming are desperately trying to get one of these key carries.
And they keep crawling forward inch by inch. The Jesters, Rascal Jester, knocking at the door, but once more denied. The turret lives. Sol trying to put it to bed.
Rascal Jesters want the last laugh. They want the win, but it's still going to be a hold right now for Sengoku Gaming. They're retreating away. It's a minute until Elder Dragon. It's 10 seconds until Baron, and one Nexus tower remains.
But it's enough. That's 1 more than none. And even if they had none, they'd still have the Nexus itself. We keep going. We go again.
40 seconds.
So, just calling in from production, Chris, piloting us in the background, says, so, with the full build, with this many stacks, with this many abilities hit onto enemy champions, Jet has 1300 ability power. You know that pop? That pop is not a pop. It is a goddamn bang.
Yeah, watch the nuclear warhead coming out for the tiny master of evil.
What can he do?
The cage! The cage is a good one! It's into a massive knockup, trying to get the kills, can't quite secure it. Devour keeps Recap alive. The turnaround Glacial Prison makes Empty fall again! The turnaround picks have been so huge from both teams, but with the man down with monsters, minions streaming into the base of Sengoku Gaming, they can't even think about contesting this Elder Dragon. Ino heads into the bot side to try and shove that one in, and Sengoku Gaming, they're all in on this.
They're going for the base, they're teleporting!
This is gonna be it. They need to try and retreat. They're not gonna be able to get back to the base. I think they've done it. Rascal Jesters onto the Nexus towers, onto the Nexus itself. 47 minutes into the game. RJ pick up game 1.
They pick it up, but they actually get a Elder Steel. Just as the Nexus goes down, they win on both sides of the map, and they take the goddamn Nexus. It was a crawl. It was a scrum. It was in the mud. It was in the mire. And